I want to welcome everybody today to the Chamber of Commerce's first Competitive Edge series. We're very excited. This has been something that our chairman, Jack Salzman, has been talking about for about 18 months, long before he was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. He was talking about giving a program to the membership which was going to be cutting edge and utilizing our website. But before we get started, I want to thank some sponsors that we have. And I don't know if Christy's here, but Christy Walker with Keller Williams and also Susan Johnson with Keller Williams. We thank you for your sponsorship and making this possible. We also want to thank Marilyn Dix. She is, I'm sorry, Marilyn Hill. She's, come on up here, Heart to Heart. She and her husband Sam have been members of the Chamber of Commerce. He has an automotive repair shop right back in the back, so if you need your car worked on, he can take care of it. But Marilyn is responsible this morning for hosting us. She's got the baked goods out. We're all enjoying that with the coffee. She was with IBM, I think, for 33 years.
Yes.
And this particular shop has been open for 2 years.
That's right. 2 years Valentine's Day.
2 years Valentine's Day. So again, Marilyn, we want to thank you for hosting us today.
Thank you and welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Again, like I said, the Competitive Edge series is an opportunity for us as a Chamber of Commerce to be able to provide the leadership skills, the sales training, and a workshop that allows our chamber members to view it in a venue and at a time that's convenient for them via the internet. And so again, we thank you for being here today. We thank you for being part of the program. We want to thank our speakers. Again, Joe Vagnone with Carolina Business Associates, thank you for being also one of our sponsors. And now I want to introduce our speakers today. I think Jack Salzman's our first.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Thank you for coming. It, like Bill said, it's been something we've been working on, and I'm glad it's actually come to fruition. I have learned with the Chamber, just like any other business, that the ideas that you have, they seem to take a little longer to actually implement, but all good things are definitely given to those who have patience. I want to talk just a couple minutes before I introduce Dave Marsh. I've known Dave, let's say probably 15 years, probably 20-something years. So Dave and I met at Auburn when I swam. But does anybody, we're going to talk about goals and why they're important, why you need them. Does anybody know the difference between maybe a dream and a goal? It's just a very simple thing.
You write it down when it's a goal?
That's close. The goals have deadlines. They're a little bit more specific. And anything you do, I think you set a goal for anything. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I got this new thing. She saw me at one home. We have a house in Dallas. So I went home this weekend and she goes, "What is that thing on your arm?" I said, "It's a Nike Fuel Band." She says, "Well, what does it do?" She says, "You're crazy." And it does. I mean, it tells me, how much, how many steps, how many calories, all these things. But the thing that I like about it, you get to do on your iPad and you set a goal, what you want to accomplish every day. And it keeps you active. I set goals for everything. I mean, I love to set goals. Dave knows I swam competitively since I was 5. Swam all over the world, just like David did, and I was lucky enough to be very good. I was the #1 ranked swimmer in the country leaving high school. When I was 12 years old, there are 24 events that you can swim competitively. I was ranked in the top 10 in the country, and 21 out of 24 had never been done. And everybody asked, well, how, why? I liked it. I enjoyed it. And some of the differences, and David will talk about, David does things so differently now, and I think that's why David's had a lot of success in his coaching. But we did it different. Our coaches back in the old days, you just got to swim far and long, for days and hours, and kind of wears you down. David believes in something totally different. But we set goals for everything. How fast each lap, how many races, and I think it's important to know that you can set a goal for anything. And I think that's the important thing. So the swimming and being competitive definitely helps in business, because I like to set goals. I set goals in the day, for the week. I set them for everything that I can imagine. And I write them. And everybody who's got an iPhone, there's a little note section or any kind of smartphone, and you write your goals down. I am going to pass out, if everybody can take this envelope, and there's a $1 bill in there. And if you could take a $1 bill, I'm going to do a little exercise. I have dollar bills dating back to 1996. And what we do, we have a kickoff meeting for our sales department the 2nd of every month, or the 2nd of January. And we ask everybody to write their goals. On one side of the dollar bill, you write your personal goals. On the other side, you write your business goals. I keep them with me. They're in my briefcase every day. And I know what my goals are. I want to be number 1 in sales in the Carolinas. I have an earning goal for the dealership. And just I have 4 or 5 on each side, and you know what I want to do personally and what I want to do professionally. I think goals, you have to look at them. You have to see them. You have to visualize them, because there's different ways to manage people. And I've always been told that, you know, go get a bunch of magazines, and if you have some salespeople, have them cut out something they want to aspire to. And so we did that early on. You cut out the big house that you wanted to, you know, move into, or the car you want to buy, or the bike or whatever, and you carried the picture with you. And that was another form of goals. I like to write it down. I have to write it down. That's the only way I can commit to it. And I think the most important thing you want to do is you got to make sure that whatever your goals are going to be, make sure they fit for you. Don't make them fit for anybody else. And I pulled some things off yesterday. I was looking at it, you know, just to get ready. One of the things that I read that I really, really liked, and I have a handout if anybody wants at the end, but it said one of the things I found interesting was this thing called use your smarts. So they started with S, specific. Like if you set a goal, I want to run faster, that's not a goal. Finishing a 10K in less than 45 minutes, that's a specific goal. Selling more cars is too vague. I want to sell 15 cars if I'm a salesperson in November, that's a good specific goal. So S is for S, and then you go M for measurable. Quantify your goals. Use numbers detailing how often, how many, and how much. And I believe it's very, very important. A is for action-oriented. Goals should imply actions that you need to take. R is for realistic. Make your goals moderately difficult but reachable. And that's the thing. You can't have them so we can't reach them because you're going to give up and you're done. You got to readjust your goals all the time. T is for timely. Create goals that you can reach in a reasonable amount of time. I definitely believe. I mean, and we have daily goals. We have a thing called 10-10-10. We regroup at the 10th of every month, the 20th of every month, and at the end of every month, because you just take it and it's a good snapshot of where you know, the first 10 days, where you are, where you need to be, the second 10 days, and then to finish. And then S is for self-determined. Don't let anybody else set your goals. I know in business, a little tricky, okay, because we all, you know, have managers and things like that. So we've got to be some kind of compromise, but the goals have to be your own. So to me, you know, I think swimming definitely helped me, okay, because, you know, we were very, very disciplined. When my father knocked on my bedroom door at 5:15 every morning, my goal was not to disappoint him, so I had to get out of bed. His rule was, I'll knock on your door once, I'm going to go to work. If you want to go to swim practice, I'll take you. I'm not going to beg you, so that my goal was not to disappoint him. So goals come in all different fashions. But I think when you get out of bed and jump into a pool about 5:45 in the morning, you have to have goals, because not a lot of sane people would do that. And I was telling somebody this morning, they were saying it's a little cool out. I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, and the rule was if it's 32 degrees and below, we get to swim indoors. 33 and above, we had to swim outdoors. And I will tell you, jump in a pool, even though the pool's not quite 80, it's, you know, 70, 78, 80 degrees, it's still cold. So your goal was to just go and get out, and so everybody has goals. But now I want to introduce our speaker today, Dave Marsh. Like I said, I've known Dave for a long time. I actually went to SwimMac and pulled, you know, the staff directory up and some stuff about Dave. Unfortunately, Dave's had so many accomplishments, the print's so small, I can't really read it. I do know Dave is the most successful NCAA coach in college sports history. Dave's team's won 12 NCAA championships. 1,312 All-America honors by 276 athletes, 45 NCAA individual titles, and 30 NCAA relay titles. But Dave came here, obviously his success at Auburn is unparalleled, but Dave came to SwimMac Carolina because he wanted to be different. And I think that's what, you know, separates Dave. Like I say, anybody can just say, go swim far and fast and go, but Dave does it differently. And he he gets everybody to be a little bit out of the box and maybe a little unorthodox to make a difference. And Dave's, there's a lot of things written about, how successful he was at Auburn in the swimming, but he's also successful because he got the athletes to actually get an education. So between that and what he's done with Swim at Carolina, Dave was just in London as one of the Olympic swim coaches. I believe that's your third team. So Dave's coached on 3 Olympic teams. Swim at Carolina had the most Olympians of any swim club in the country. And how many medals?
4 golds and 3 silvers.
4 golds and 3 silvers. So with that, you can't top that. Let me introduce Dave Marsh.
Thanks, Jack. And Jack was actually my first prize recruit when I went into when I finished my swimming career. I went into coaching, and actually I stumbled into coaching. I really intended to go in other areas of business, but I started coaching the little age group team there in Auburn. Next thing you knew, I was just hooked. I could see the impact it had on young people. At the same time, I was coaching with the university team. And one of the things about my, a short version of my story was that I would stay up and call recruits like Jackie, because back then we had this thing called a Watts line, and that was the high technology for recruiting. Well, we had this one Watts line that had 2 lines to it. Okay, that was for all the sports, including football. So we would sit there at night, and a lot of reasons we'd be there late at night is because you'd have to sit there and you'd have to be ready to press that button as soon as it stopped flickering, so they were on the line with somebody else. You'd have to be the first one on to be able to make a recruiting call, because there was no calling cards. There was nothing like we didn't have. Maybe that was just in Auburn, Alabama. We didn't have that kind of technology, but we knew. I got really good at hitting that Watts line, and I would often call the recruits real late at night. Why are you calling this late? It's like because that's the light quit flickering. I finally could press it and get you. So it's but a lot of those nights, I would. I lived about, in Auburn, it was a long way, about 6 miles from the university. And so I would go up to after I'd do these late night calls, because we had morning practice, of course, I would go up in the lobby of the athletic department. I'd just go to sleep on the couches and set my alarm for waking up in time for practice. And lo and behold, when I was considered for the Auburn job, in the interview, Pat Dye, who is a kind of famous football coach there, and another assistant who was there even before Pat Dye said, "Now why should we hire you, a 31-year-old coach out of Las Vegas, who's coached just basically high school kids up to now, and Buddy Davidson, the assistant there that had been there this whole time?" He says, "Well, Coach, let me tell you one thing, and we know you believe in hard work, and Coach Marsh used to sleep on the couch in the athletic department and then go down to practice." And he kind of gave a little bit of my story of my work ethic, of the way I was, when I was trying to, I really wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just trying to help Auburn University be the best team it could. I wanted it to continue what Jack and I called, what we called our we were proud of being a perennial top 10 team. And at that point in time, Auburn had dropped back to last place, because the year before I took the job, we scored 0 points in NCAAs. So we were tied for 268th place in NCAAs as far as I saw. So when my chance to come back there, it was like, we're going to get this right. And that's one of the things that I think that started early and often in my career was just I started with passion. I started with, this is something that means a great deal to me. It really wasn't my career path, but I was passionate about it. Once I did it 100%. I got to set this up, and Marilyn, thanks for all the treats. Beautiful setup here today, but my wife came to me last week, and she doesn't often do this, so she said, "What do you think about going on a little challenge with me with our diet?" And I'm like, what does this look like? "Well, it's a health thing." I'm like, okay, I still not sure what this means. What do you mean by health thing? And I thought it was gonna be like eat more green beans or have a salad before you have the meal or something, more bright colors you eat. And I was like, what do you think of eliminating grain and dairy from your diet for 21 days? And I said, well, I don't even think about that at all. I would never even consider that. Why would I even consider doing that? And of course, you know, by then, as you folks know that are married, it's already over. The conversation's over. I'm going on the challenge. And so I walk in here this morning, Marilyn, thank you very much. I already had a banana, thank you. And I'd like that, I'd like a picture with my banana with that in the background back there, because this is really painful. My daughter asked me the other day, Dad, are you going to stay on this during Thanksgiving? I'm like, heck no. It's going off the day before, but this is more painful than Thanksgiving, actually, because I have a sweet tooth like no other. And I think think about it, I'll give you a short context of the Auburn days, because it was something that I kind of didn't even know what I was doing, to be honest with you. I really didn't have I didn't have a road map to what I was doing, but I absolutely knew the end game. I knew the end game because I lived it. I lived a top 5 NCAA team. When Jack and I were at Auburn, we always had a proud tradition of competing. We didn't win any championships. We just almost won the conference championship one year, but didn't win any championships, but we were always a proud team. We were always competitive. We were able to race against everybody, and we didn't have that at that point. So that was something that I was passionate about getting that back. So I knew what I wanted to get. I knew what it felt like. I knew what it tasted like. I knew what it sounded like. I know what an energized team sounds like versus a team that carries itself with poor posture. And in my very first practice at Auburn, we spent the first practice working on 2 critical elements of success. And this is with these, swimmers that I inherited that came to Auburn over that window of time for a lot of different reasons. Some of which weren't to swim fast; they were to, see who could do the best keg handstands. But I think the thing what I emphasized from that very beginning was that success is in the most minute details. And so that day we worked on a proper handshake. We worked on shaking a hand, looking somebody in the eye, giving a firm grip, and acknowledging their name or just giving them the attention that's deserved. So we practiced on handshakes with each other because I noticed I got a lot of dead fish. Hey, coach, what's up? Yeah, what's up? That kind of stuff. And I was like, that's unacceptable. That's not successful. The other thing we do is we had them, I'd noticed the year before I'd watched them at championship, and I just watched their posture. I watched their continence when they came into the pool at the SEC championships. They kind of sulked into the championship like, they were beat up zombies. And so the next thing we did is I had them all tie their towel around their neck, and they walked around the pool. And I said, that's your Superman towel, right? That's your Superman cape, and and when you're Superman, you have a hard time even thinking of slouching. You stand tall, you stand proud, and that's what that was our literally that was our very first swim practice. And from there, we did a whole bunch of other things, and it did become more intentional. In fact, we said in 1990, when we were the last in the NCAA, that by the 4-year window, we would be SEC champions. So by 1994 was our goal to be SEC champions. And then we took off and won NCAA titles. At first, we looked at that short-term goal of what the SEC, well, the SEC has the mighty Gators in it. Back in those days, they were somewhat unbeatable. And over the progression of the years, the goal had to be to have the athletes recruit people better than they were. So it was literally they were recruiting people to replace them on relays. They were recruiting people that would drop them in the depth chart, and that's just what had to happen to win championships. But because we could get this current team, a portion of the current team, about half the team made it. Half the team went away and did other things and got an education. That was great. But the ones that wanted to stay and move progressively toward that SEC championship kind of attitude stuck around. And that made a huge difference when we were able to bring in that kind of recruit. So we did a lot of years. Did 17 years at Auburn, and as Jack said, we won a lot of championships and went through the course of those things. Not that I got bored with pursuing championships, because I didn't, but I did notice that my children who just gotten into swimming, they just started swimming. I noticed the way kind of the typical age group program goes through these young kids and how they develop them to become swimmers. And really, it's go to that wall, touch that wall, come back to this wall, touch this wall, and do that a lot, and then do the different sets, you say. And I was really disappointed in the experience I was seeing with my own children. And I said, surely there's got to be a better way. And I help a lot of colleges and clubs around the country find their coaches and do searches and things like that. And SwimMac called me, or Mecklenburg Aquatic Club called me and asked, can you help us find a coach? And as I do with every AD I talk to and every president of club I talk to, I say, well, what is your goal? What are you looking for in this? And invariably, they always say, well, we want somebody that has we want somebody that has a engaging personality that will create a really positive culture for our team. We want someone who's going to make people happy and progress along the way and have good progress along the way. We want somebody who's going to build the best there is in athletes and swimmers going to get the opportunity to have scholarships and do. And I said, time out. Okay, you got to choose one of those. You can have a little bit of all that, but you can't have all that. The reality is you can be kind of big and happy and soft and a jolly team that's where participation is the primary focus, or you can have excellence as the primary focus. Probably can't always have both, and you probably need to prioritize which one that is. So which do you want? Well, and at that time I said to this Mecklenburg Aquatic Club, which is back then was one of the biggest clubs in the country and still is, I said, well, I gave him a little lecture. I said, look, the deal, here's what I see if you want my take. When I'm recruiting in the state of North Carolina, when I'm coming up I-85 to come, look at recruits, and I go through Atlanta, stop for a day or two, and I'm heading up to North Carolina, when I hit, not Jimmy Carter, that's Atlanta. When I hit Billy Graham Boulevard, I'm hitting the accelerator, and I'm heading to Raleigh as fast as I can, because there isn't the development within Charlotte that's taking kids to the level in which they can help the Auburn program quickly. So Raleigh's doing a lot better job of that with the clubs up there. And so that was really an eye-opener for their club, and they had to do some contemplation. So what they do, they got really creative. They called Jeff Gackel, who was the president and still very involved in the team. He runs Carolina Pool Management, just a swim pool company around here. But he went to the USOC and the USA Swimming and says, hey, what can we do about getting some of these college coaches out of college and getting them to come to club so that they can work with professional swimmers? See, there's not a professional swimming, there hasn't been a professional swimming club situation. Professional swimmers, there's not a place they go. They generally just hang around the college they were at, and they kind of keep doing what they did in college. There's not that development. So the USOC, USA Swimming, and MAC designed the first Center of Excellence that they coined. That's what they coined the name, and we started it right here in Charlotte. It was interesting when I came here because we own a pool on the Latin School campus down on Providence Road that we have a long-term lease with the Latin School with, and I'm sure that when I came here, everybody assumed that I would live down there in Ballantyne or somewhere down in that area, and my wife rode over with me to Charlotte to kind of look around. And the first mistake I did was drive her through Myers Park when we first got to town. And of course I said, well, this isn't exactly a swim coach salary kind of place. So we'll find someplace else with trees. And so we drove around all around town. And for both of us, once we hit exit 28 and sensed the lake, then we drove down, she drove down Concord Road in Davidson. She said, we're living here. That's all there is to it. So I was done. Fortunately, Huntersville has a pool, HFFA, they built a nice pool a while back, and we leased space there. So we were able to, the concept was to build this program at the HFFA Center. And so I was able to get the benefit of living here in Lake Norman. And we were just talking a little bit ago about how really we've raised our kids, raised my kids here in Lake Norman, which has just been amazing and a real blessing. But along the way with SwimMac, we did have 5 swimmers, well, really 6 if you count Ricky Behrens, qualify for the Olympic team. I get a lot of questions about why you did this to the club. At the end of the day, what we needed, we needed our young swimmers to have role models. Right now, if in Charlotte, there wasn't really a strong swimming program anywhere in Charlotte. So once our youngsters never saw the best there was in the sport, except once a year at the Charlotte Ultra Swim. But there was no kind of living, team that had a college program. UNCC's talking about starting a team. Queens has started a team. Davidson has a team, but they don't really back it with scholarships a whole lot. So it's got some limitations there. So having the pros here has allowed the young swimmers to see what good looks like. They see what good looks like on a regular basis. They see that, oh, by the way, good has some of the same struggles. They see that good doesn't really like getting in the cold water like Jack or I don't. They see that they're real people and they have ups and downs and they tell their story and they share their story, and that makes it more tangible. Well, in this window of time, much thanks to Pam Swander, and Pam's our regional director for the North program. She's in charge of the North program, of which we have 800 year-round swimmers. We have, which is one of the larger clubs in America. We have a junior swim league that's another about another 600. We have a lesson program that teaches about 10,000 young people to swim every year. Master's program that encourages you guys to come in the pool and swim with us. That's for adult fitness. And we have a whole lot of other things, Teen Fit, middle school Teen Fit, but Pam's in charge of all that for the North region here. And in building this, we've also developed the top 18 and other program in the country by almost any metric that you have. And if you look at the last sheet on Jack's handout, the U.S. Swimming puts clubs through metrics like that, a bunch of measurables. And right now, we're the #1 club in America, and that's been a really big. We're as excited about that as we are about the Olympics, and it's happened because they saw what good looks like. I get a lot of questions also about this Olympic thing, because there's no doubt that you guys remember the classic photo of Michael Phelps, out touching Michael Kavik at the Olympic Games by literally 1/100th of a second, what that looks like. And there's so much in that picture when you know about what that's about, but it says a whole process of a career. You had a guy finish the race with bad technique with his head up. You had a guy who has done his whole career beating people at the end. You had an athlete who was expecting to be caught. You had an athlete that was expecting to catch. So all that stuff was all happening. And how did it play out? It played out in a 1/100th touch by Michael Phelps, who was expecting to catch. And Michael Kavik had been caught by Michael many, many times before that. So that's really why that happened. Why it happened by 1/100th, I'm sure some fate thing has something to do with it, but to a great degree, it's because Michael lifted his head. But he's lifted his head in practice every day when he finishes at the wall. That's how he finishes probably at practice every day. And I know Michael Kavik, and he's a good guy, but he's not that machine like Michael was at that time. He didn't have that coach that stayed on top of him like Bob Bowman did. And Bob used to be one of my assistant coaches. Michael's coach is one of my assistant coaches when I was in Las Vegas. But when it comes to that Olympic development, and as it pertains to goals in particular, kind of the question is what's the key? What's the secret? What's the thing? And it's really it's pretty simple, but it's hard to master because it's everything. Literally everything that an Olympic level athlete does makes a difference. Not almost every day, the choices they make in their recovery, in their nutrition, in their rest, and how they handle their stress of relationships, and how they manage their races throughout an event, and how they manage their development of their careers, all of that matters. And there isn't any little thing that you can say, well, this is completely irrelevant and doesn't matter at all. No, even the point of which, we had sports psychologists, 2 different sports psychologists working with our group this year, and all the emphasis on the sports psychologists had more to do with just how they were managing their day-to-day life and how they were growing as people. That was the underpinnings of the excellence piece they were trying to build. Because if you have cracks in your personal life, they're going to start showing themselves in your athletic life and as it applies to you guys in your work life for sure. And you guys have certainly seen that. The other nice thing about that is it fits into the development of character, and ultimately the secret thing about our little sport is that we want to develop people like Jack Salzman. We want to develop people in our sport that are goal-oriented, that are disciplined, that understand that that delayed gratification is something to embrace, not to avoid, because you have to. You have to do a lot of work to get that next level of success. Invariably, there are going to be slumps in swimming. It's the nature of the sport as you try to make some developments. You hand those things out? Okay. I have Pam here has the goal sheets for Davis Tarwater, one of our Olympians, and this is just his personal goal sheet that he made up about halfway through the year, and I thought I'd share it with you. Now, when I handed out, when I had them copied at first, I actually had the first page, which is, well, the first page is our, Swim Mac and our goals and some of our actually our mission and our vision. But on the second page is about his races and things he was planning in his races. The third one is third page is a lot of the details of his expectations of the staff and staying focused. I, like you guys, for the most part, are working with adults when I'm talking about the pro athletes. They're 23 to 28, 30 years old. They're not children. So I have to move into a partnership with these guys. It's not me mandating what they're going to accomplish and then putting that on them. It's me becoming this partner with them. So a lot of the language that I'll use with these professional swimmers is how do I help you in your process? It's not how do I have you get my result for me. And so I have to be that partner for them. And I actually ended up ripping this back page off, and I'm sorry about that. I didn't get permission from Davis to get this in time, so this has got. But what I wanted to explain to you is that this has really personal stuff on it. I got to know the heart of the athlete. I got to know what really motivates them and drives them. I need them to be able to be honest with me about the things I need to know about them. And this is only a beginning of a working document of building a relationship with the athlete. Upon that relationship with the athlete, I can go inside them and try to get them to be what I consider the most important piece of the transition in our sport between what Jack talked about, which was, early on we all did a lot of laps. We did a crazy amount of laps. I mean, by any physiologist standards, we were nuts in swimming, to where now what I believe in is the same thing that causes high success in every area, which is high engagement. And when you understand the athlete and you understand the people that you work with better, and they know you care about who they are, they know that you care about them outside of just being an athlete or just being a worker, and they can sense that from you, they'll pick up their level of engagement. And that's what I believe happened with our group. You see, the 5 we had make the Olympic team, none of the 5 were supposed to make the Olympic team going into the trials. I mean, none of the 5 were in a position like Michael Phelps or Ryan Lochte or Missy Franklin, or that were like foregone conclusions. Oh, they're going to make the Olympic team. Literally none of them. They were all outside the range. Some of it was interesting. We had USA Swimming, they came to me, I don't know, a year or so ago and say, yeah, we did the Moneyball numbers, and you got to be top 4 in the world or top 6 in the world to have any chance to make the U.S. team. And at that point, I'm like, oh crud, we got nobody in that situation, And so we, and they were sure on this Moneyball thing. Well, I love it when that happens. I love when people tell me, that you're really mathematically not going to be able to do this. That's perfect. That's what I needed. Of course, we played that to them too. Like, you guys aren't really going to make it, so I don't know why you're at practice today. And oh! So it's one of those things you have to embrace, make part of your mantra, and move forward. And that's what we did. And as the year went on, we looked for all kinds of different ways. And I was taking 25-year-old athletes and changing their stroke technique. Now, that's not something you normally do to an athlete that's trained that nervous system. That muscular nervous system has a certain pathway it hits, and it's hit for years and years and years. Well, you know what? We could take a risk, because the goal wasn't just to swim and to go down the pool. The goal was clear. Top 2, period. You got to be top 2 in the United States to make the Olympic team. It's not third, just doesn't matter at that meet. So there's about 50 swimmers at the Olympic trials of 250,000 year-round swimmers, of probably another 4 million summer league swimmers that end up making the Olympic team. And in order to do that, in the United States, you have to be literally among the absolute best in the world. If you make the U.S. team, you are a medal candidate immediately. And for us to have 5 come through, I couldn't have been more pleased. Now, Davis is a very unique one in that he didn't make the team. He actually flew home to Charlotte after missing the spot in his third Olympics now, third Olympic trials, 2004, 2008, now 2012, he missed the Olympic team. There's some extensive stories. In fact, on USA Swimming website today, if you want to read a little bit more about Davis, he actually is the 20 questions guy, and it's a fantastic 20 questions. You'll love it, and it applies to your business because it's what you do when you're disappointed, how you handle things. And he explained that his approach this time versus the other time was to develop this an appreciation attitude, an attitude of appreciation as he went through the process. Well, and the universal laws tend to reward those kind of people that live in that appreciation. And sure enough, he got a call. Actually, my daughter called me. She saw it on Twitter that this is true, that Michael Phelps dropped the 200 freestyle. Well, Davis, it was 7th place in the 200 freestyle. That put him on the Olympic team as the 6th place person. And the reason I hand this out, because you look down this list, for Davis, that was his 4th event. That wasn't his first event. 100 fly, 200 fly, 100 free, and 200 free. Okay? So he didn't have just plan A, folks. He had plan D that accomplished his ultimate goal. Now, as it played out, and I just got chills. This is awesome. I haven't told this story that much. So, and as it turned out, he not only made the Olympic team, he went to the Olympic camp. He immediately went to work in a way I have never seen him work. He raised the bar during the training camp. And then he went to the Olympics and had his best swim of his life as the prelim swim of the 800 freestyle relay, which was the third fastest split of all the morning swims. He ended up winning an Olympic gold medal as a member of the 800 freestyle relay. So he not only made the team, he's now the proud owner of an Olympic gold medal from the London Olympics. And I can tell you that from a business perspective, as far as I'm concerned, I think the big lesson for me was when I was watching Davis go through this. He never got to a point where it was all about the result. It was a lot more about the process. You have to have the result. You have to have the goal. You see on the sheet, he has specific times and estimated times it's going to take. You need to have that. But then you need to enjoy yourself during the process. One thing Davis did, and I think I'd say to you guys, and certainly me as a reminder, is family, faith, your fitness, and your friends. I mean, are you taking care of those categories foundationally for yourself as you build yourself into the professional and the business you want to be? Because without that foundation, without Davis's new approach to that was to have a more balanced approach to what he was doing, and ultimately led to more success. So I really appreciate your attention. I know we're going to have some questions in a little bit, but let me wrap up here, and we'll go to questions at the very end. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Well, thank you. Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name's Wayne Beidelman. I'm also a coach. Not quite as elite a coach as our friend David. My day job is coaching business owners, and the objective of the Competitive Edge series, of course, is to try and bring home things that you've heard. I mean, how great to match up athletics with business, as Jack's certainly capable of doing, and Dave's a great business guy as well. And so my objective here is to talk about bringing it home in terms of processes that can be used by business owners to implement some of the things that we've talked about today. Now, remember also, the reason this is being taped is we intend to put all this on the website so that business owners who aren't able to attend these can not only hear some practical ways in which to implement some of this goal setting and planning, as well as being able to hear the fantastic speakers that are going to be part of this series. So we're talking about goal setting for business owners. And you know, I love sports. My daughter just joined SwimMac. What a fantastic program that is. And you know, I've always loved analogies. You know, you can go crazy with sports analogies to business. We've heard some of them this morning, and it just fits. It just absolutely fits. And you know, you can start making a whole list of all the different things that you might say inside business or inside the locker room or whatever, and just go crazy with it. But of course, the two that we're talking about today is talking about setting and achieving goals. And we're also talking about executing a game plan. And I'll just ask a rhetorical question. How come it seems so sexy when we talk about that in sports teams? You know, game plan, executing game plan and football teams, et cetera, but yet, frankly, statistically, 90 to 95% of us as business owners never formally set goals and build a plan. So I just ask you, why is that the case? Well, hopefully I can help, you know, bring some process, and there's some themes that go through what David said and Jack said that I would also like to bring home to business owners, and that is that business success, any type of success, involves long-term focus, long-term goals with short-term focus. Long-term goals with short-term focus. Now, think about an Olympic athlete. I mean, those that are just finished the Summer Olympics are now looking 4 years out, so they're going to have a long-term goal. But if they don't have short-term focus, I mean, you can't just turn it on 6 months before the Olympics to try and get going to make the team. So an ingredient is always to have long-term focus. Even those that have yearly business plans, if you don't have a longer-term focus, we as business owners have a finite life. I mean, we're only going to be in business so long. And for example, if we have yearly goals and you plod along, you might hit all those goals, but if you needed to be here by the time you got out here, and you didn't shoot this way rather than just looking year by year, you might not be as successful as you need to be as an individual. Short-term focus. You've got to decide now what needs to be done to get to that longer-term goal. The other concept I want to talk about, this is not me, this is from a book called, what's it called? Managing the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish. It's almost a 10-year-old book. But he says success requires 1% vision and 99% alignment. The best way to describe this, I think, is to turn it the other way around. If we talked about 99% vision and 1% alignment, you know, we'd be describing a visionary. Bless their hearts, we love visionaries. But if all you do is just have visions, you may not ever get there. In fact, Jack alluded to this himself. One of my favorite quotes is, "A vision without a plan is just a wish. Goals without a plan is just a wish." So 1% vision, 99% alignment. You might think, well, I expected that to say 1% vision, 99% action. Well, in fact, it does. But the trouble is, it's not any action, it's only action that's aligned with reaching that vision. We as business owners spend way too much time just being busy without making sure that what it is we're doing is focused on our particular goals for our business. A very, very important concept. So the mistakes that we as business owners primarily make, we fail to be formal about our goal setting. Jack has a formal process. Dave described a formal process. You saw it written. So we fail to do that, and we fail to forget about what our personal goals are as business owners. We fail to formalize any plan, and even if we have a plan, a lot of us don't execute all that well. So part of my role here, try and bring some things home that'll help all of us with this. And I'm making an assumption that as business owners, we need our business to be successful for us to personally be successful. In order for us as business owners to realize our personal financial and lifestyle goals means our business has to be successful. If you're lucky enough that you're already successful and anything you make in your business is just gravy, you know, that's great. Chances are that's not where you are. You need your business to be successful as a business owner to be personally successful. Therefore, the goal setting and the planning around that is extremely important. So here's what I suggest you do. Pick a time period, 3 to 5 years out. Don't pick 12 months for the reason I alluded to before. Don't pick 20 or 25 years because that's so far down the road, who knows what's going to happen in that time. Pick 3 to 5 years and then write down your personal goals. For all you business owners, independent contractors, write down your personal dreams and goals for that chosen time period. Now you might say, what am I supposed to do, just write a book? Well, at least be specific in these particular areas. Define what income level you want, let's say 5 years. What income level do you want to be at after 5 years? Where do you want to be wealth and equity in your company after 5 years? What do you want your lifestyle to be in 5 years? Now, lifestyle might seem like an unusual thing to focus on, but given that this is the basis for determining what your business needs to look like, think of the difference between a business owner who says, I love working 24/7 and I'm going to do it till I drop, which is fine, versus the business owner who says, well, in 5 years, I only want to work 4 days a week and I want to be able to take a month off to travel around the world once a year. Nothing wrong with either one of these, but entirely different pictures when you think about those in terms of what the business needs to look like for that business owner to be able to do that. So it's important to define lifestyle. Write it down. Jack said this as well. I don't have time, but I can show you statistics that miraculously, if you just write down your goals, it improves the chances that you're going to reach them. It's amazing. And there are statistics that prove it. I can't explain it, but it works. So write it down, even though you think, hey, I'm an expert, I'm already successful. Write your goals down. It really makes a difference. So part of what Bill and Jack mentioned, you don't have to be able to read these, but some of the forms that are going to be available on the website, one of them is going to be forcing you to download this sheet. It's called the ILWE Worksheet, Income, Lifestyle, Wealth, and Equity Worksheet, where you are forced to answer questions in writing to get at these personal goal levels. So that's going to be available. So now what do? Well, you need to convert your personal goals into business goals and build a plan around it. Now you might say, oh gosh, a plan, I hate doing plans. Well, here's the deal. U.S. Bank and SCORE report 96% of independently owned small businesses fail within the first 10 years. 96% failure rate in the first 10 years. In fact, I just heard within the last 2 weeks the same 96%, but it was over the first 6 years. And in fact, 80% fail in the first 2 or 3 years. I mean, this is tragic. And what's more tragic is the vast majority of the time, it's due to reasons that are totally controllable. It's not that it's a bad business. It's not that it's a bad business model. It's about other things. And of course, what I'm focused on is the biggest cause, according to this study, was a lack of a plan. So this is why we're talking about it. Just coming up with a plan, and I'm going to describe a very simple one, can be extremely important, and it can create competitive advantage for you as business owners. Very, very important. So now we're going to talk about how you take your personal goals and track it all the way down to coming up with specific action items inside your business to realize those. So I'm going to use an example. Let's assume you decided to choose 5 years out. Let's say one of your personal goals was to create $120,000 of income for yourself at the end of 5 years. Then the idea is to translate that into measurable goals inside your business that equates to realizing that $120,000 net income. Obviously, this will vary by business and type of industry. But let's say, for example, that this is an industry where the normal net profit margin is 10%. So 2 of your measurable business goals might be you want to get to $1.2 million of gross revenues, gross sales, and that you've gotten to a 10% profit margin. So those 2 together are going to create that $120,000 of net income. So you've now come up with some business targets that relate to that personal goal. Then you say, okay, what kind of capabilities do I need to create inside my business to make that happen? In this example, enhanced marketing efforts are diversifying your products and services. Now you might say, boy, that's pretty broad, not very specific. How do I know what to do with this? Well, this is looking 5 years down the road and anticipating what you need to get better at to realize these specific business targets, and I'll explain in a minute how you bring it into a shorter term focus. So here's a way of taking one personal goal and relating it to where your business needs to be in measurable terms, and then getting at action items. And you need to take all your personal goals and then come up with all the measurable goals you can come up with for your business to take the first step in this plan. And then you say, okay, we're looking 5 years out. Well, here's the next process. Stick with me. It's not really difficult. We've developed 5-year business goals, and we've developed what kind of key thrusts and capabilities we need, and then we do the same thing for 12 months down the road. In other words, we determine, well, what measurable goals, what does my business need to look like at the end of 12 months to have a chance to reaching those goals in 5 years? So you hear some of the alignment that I talked about earlier. So where do you think you need to be 12 months in measurable terms to reach that 5-year goal, and what are the key initiatives that you're going to need to implement to make that happen. And then you do the same thing for 90 days. You say, oh my gosh, that's now. Well, that's the point. Long-term goals, short-term focus. Well, when are you going to start? If you're not going to start now, even if you consciously say, I'm not going to do anything different for the next 90 days, well, you get to the end of that 90 days, you've got to do your next 90-day plan, and at some point, assuming you've got a gap between where you are and your 12-month goals, you're going to have to do something different at some point. So you might as well think about that now. Determine measurable goals at the end of the next 3 months that's going to get you to your 12-month goals, which is going to get you to your 5-year goals, and then you define your key activities that's going to make that happen, which obviously are much more specific now that we're talking about today. We're talking about the next 90 days. Now the plan format that's going to be available online, oh my gosh, this looks really, really busy. The good news is it's just one page. This is not my idea. This came from that same book I alluded to earlier, at least the concept of a one-page plan. I've simplified it and refined it a bit, but the beauty of this is, although it looks pretty busy, it is a spreadsheet, is that it's just one page. And by definition, that means it's an internal document. It's for you to use and your employees to use. It's probably not what you'd hand to a banker to try and get a line of credit or to get a capital investor, although there's nothing wrong with the information, but it's intended to be an internal document to help give you direction. And all we're talking about today is just this piece of it. And you say, well, what's all the rest? Well, I noticed on Dave's goal sheet for his swimmers, they talk about where are their strengths, where are their weaknesses. Well, some of this is a standard, let's outline what your strengths and weaknesses are, and although we're not going to talk about it, in the downloadable form there's going to be a little red dot up at the top of each box, and you can put your cursor on it. It's going to describe how to fill out that particular box if you choose to download it. But let's focus on these 3 columns. These are the ones we're talking about today. If you look at that first column, that's what I'm calling the 5-year column. The goals 5 years out is where you outline at the top, and at the bottom are the key thrusts and capabilities. You may not be able to read this, but it's the same thing as I already described. And then the next column is 12 months, goals, key initiatives, and then your 90-day plan, goals, key action items. And one thing you notice, 3 things I'll point out. One, you move from left to right. That's how you keep the alignment. You kind of do this all at the same time. There's 5 years, there's 12 months, there's 90 days. And you'll notice that there's some opportunity format-wise to come up with more than five measurable goals when you get into a shorter term, but you also notice that there's only, format-wise, room for 5 key initiatives or key action items, and that's intentional in that as a small business, if you can do 5 really well and accomplish those, you've got it made. The trouble is we try to do 10 and 15. And so if you stay focused on the ones that are most meaningful for your business and you do those well, you'll get much better results. In fact, remember I mentioned don't be concerned about the 5-year initiatives being so broad. Well, it's because you're framing the more specific goals as you go across. You can see the color coding there. As to remember, the top one was enhance your marketing plan. So maybe when you get to 12 months, you follow across and maybe you say, by the end of 12 months, I'm going to implement a new tactical marketing plan. And then maybe your 90-day plan is I'm going to build a new marketing strategy and start developing a tactical marketing plan. So there ought to be some consistency and alignment across that page that allows you to reach ultimately your 5-year goals. So in summary, as a business owner, first define your personal goals. Pick a time period, not tomorrow, not 12 months, but 3 to 5 years, preferably down the road. Then translate those to your business goals. What are the key actions necessary to reach those goals? And then you do it both for that 3 to 5 year period, you do it for 12 months, and then you do it for 90 days. It's a relatively simple process in the end, and it really, really can work. And you'll notice that, this process is, you have long-term goals, you have short-term focus. If you remember that sheet, you work across, there's alignment in setting up what it is you need to do, your short-term goals with your long-term goals. So it's a process that really, really works. So in summary, the topic of this meeting was goal settings for success. So hopefully you can see not only in athletics, but as business owners, goal setting also helps with our own life and business success. So I hope you feel this is useful. At this point, Bill, take it over.
Stay up here for a second. I want to remind everybody that today's program was also made possible by the Lake Norman Citizen, one of our media sponsors and partners. And they're going to be having an article about this coming up in the paper. But we want to thank Kim Clark, her staff, Marla, who organized getting some of our sponsors involved. And again, we want to thank the Lake Norman Citizen for your involvement. We also, I want to recognize Jack Salzman, because again, Wayne just talked about vision, and it was Jack's vision to bring a program to the Chamber of Commerce like this. One of the things we recognized early on is some of our programs we run at the Chamber of Commerce are outstanding. Some of the seminars and events. But many of our members these days, particularly with this economy, is saying, I simply can't get out of the office. We're short-staffed and they're great programs, but we just can't get there. Now we're taking the program to the membership.